I'm Lindsay, 24, leading a development team at a top tech firm in Austin, Texas. Last month, I watched my parents, Jeffrey and Pamela, crumble when they saw what their brand new Mercedes-Benz SUV truly cost them. 4 years ago, I was an 18-year-old with a broken heart, betrayed when they refused to pay for my college, choosing instead to cruise Dallas in that car to impress their friends. Lindsay, deal with it, my dad snapped, brushing me off like I didn't matter. So I did. I fought tooth and nail, built a career that left them stunned, and turned their selfishness into something they never expected. If your family ever let you down, share your story in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more real stories like this. In our picture-perfect Dallas suburb where every house screamed money, I grew up certain college was my future. My dad, Jeffrey, owned a construction firm that built half the mansions around us, and my mom, Pamela, handled PR for upscale brands, always looking like she belonged on a billboard. We weren't billionaires, but we lived like it. Private school, beach trips to Galveston, a lifestyle that turned heads. From my earliest memories, my parents were fixated on appearances. Dad shelled out thousands for country club memberships to network with big shots, while Mom threw charity galas to flaunt our flawless home. Perception is everything, Lindsay, Dad would lecture when I questioned why we needed a new Lexus when our old one worked just fine. People respect what they see. Despite their obsession with image, my parents swore education was the path to success. My straight A report cards were practically trophies in our living room. When I took first place in a regional coding contest in ninth grade, they paraded me to their friends as our tech prodigy. "We're saving for your college," Mom promised me through high school, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "Just get into a top school and we'll handle the rest." I trusted them. How could I not? Their lifestyle screamed wealth. New decor, designer outfits, a kitchen remodel that cost more than most cars. Their words backed my dreams, so I poured my heart into studying. While my friends hit parties on weekends, I was coding late at the library or taking extra courses at the community college to pad my applications. My computer science teacher, Ms. Ramsey, saw my talent for algorithms and became my guide. "You're something special, Lindsay," she said in junior year, her voice full of belief. "A program like UT Austin or Texas A&M could launch you." Her encouragement fueled me. I aimed high: UT Austin, Texas A&M, even Georgia Tech, the best computer science schools out there. I spent countless nights polishing essays, prepping for interviews, making sure every application was perfect. My parents seemed fully on board. They covered my SAT prep classes, drove me to campus visits, and turned mailing my UT Austin application into a ceremony. "This is your shot at the big time," Dad said, grinning as he dropped the envelope in the mailbox. Mom beamed. "We're so proud, sweetheart." But there was a secret they kept buried beneath their polished exterior. Behind the country club brunches and Mom's designer bags, my parents were sinking in debt. The fancy cars, home upgrades, gala donations, it was all financed, a fragile act they maintained to keep up appearances. They hid it well from me, from their friends. To everyone, we were the Chapmans, the family who had it together. To me, they were the parents who'd vowed to support my future. I didn't know they were walking a financial tightrope, ready to trade my dreams to protect their facade. By senior year, my classmates were freaking out about college costs. Lunch conversations revolved around scholarships, loans, and financial aid packets. Some friends swapped their dream schools for cheaper ones. "You're so lucky," my friend Brooke told me one day, her voice heavy with envy. Her parents were pinching pennies for her community college fees. "Your folks can afford anywhere?" I nodded, gratitude swelling in my chest. "Yeah, they've been saving for my education my whole life," I said, echoing Mom's words. I believed it completely. I was banking on it. March of my senior year, the acceptance letters started rolling in. Texas A&M came first, followed by other strong schools. When UT Austin's letter arrived, I tore through the house, screaming, waving it like a flag. Georgia Tech followed a week later. I had choices, real life-changing choices, and the future I'd worked for felt so close I could taste it. That night, I texted my parents who were at some fancy mixer asking for a special dinner to discuss college plans. Mom replied fast, suggesting, "The Capitol Grill, our go-to steakhouse for celebrations." "Let's make it big," she texted with a flurry of confetti emojis. I spent the evening browsing UT Austin's dorm options, imagining myself coding in their labs, building projects that could shape the world. Everything seemed to be falling into place. I had no clue my parents had other plans for the money they'd promised me. I didn't see the cracks in their perfect image the way they were scrambling to cover their debts. I couldn't imagine that the dinner I was so pumped for would shatter everything I thought I knew, that the future I'd built in my mind was about to be torn apart, not by accident, but by their decision. That Friday night at the Capitol Grill felt like a dream at first. The steakhouse buzzed with the clink of glasses and low laughter, the kind of place where Dallas's elite came to be seen. I'd dressed up in a black dress Mom had picked out for special occasions. My folder stuffed with printouts about UT Austin, Texas, A&M, and Georgia Tech program details, campus maps, the works. My heart was set on UT Austin, but I wanted to weigh every option with my parents. The hostess led us to a plush corner booth, a candle flickering between us. Dad ordered a bottle of red wine, $200. I'd later learn to toast my acceptances. "To our star," he said, raising his glass, his smile wide. Mom chimed in. "We're so proud, Lindsay. Top schools like these, you've outdone yourself." I couldn't stop grinning. This was it, the moment I'd pictured for years. I pulled out my folder, eager to dive into the pros and cons. I'm leaning toward UT Austin. I started flipping to their computer science page. The program's top tier, and it's close enough for visits. My parents traded a glance, quick but sharp, like a warning I didn't catch. Dad set his glass down, his smile tightening. "About that, Lindsay," he said, his voice shifting to a tone I'd never heard before. "We need to talk about the financial side of college." I nodded, still clueless. "Sure, I know these schools aren't cheap. Texas A&M offered some merit aid, and we can look into scholarships." Another look between them. Mom reached for her water, took a slow sip, and set it down with care. "Lindsay," she said, her voice smooth, but cold, like she was closing a deal. "Your dad and I have decided we're not paying for your college." The words hit like a punch to the chest. I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. "What?" My voice came out small, barely a whisper. Dad leaned forward, his eyes hard. "We've worked our tails off for 25 years. It's time we treated ourselves." I blinked, waiting for the punchline, for them to laugh and say it was a joke. It never came. "Treated yourselves?" I echoed, my brain scrambling. "What about the money you saved for my education?" Mom's smile didn't waver, but it was empty. "Plans change, sweetheart. We've ordered a Mercedes-Benz SUV, top of the line, custom rims, the whole package. It's being delivered next week." My mouth went dry. "A car," I repeated, my voice cracking. "You're choosing a car over my college?" Dad's jaw tightened. "It's not just a car, Lindsay. It's an investment in our image. You don't get how much appearances matter in our world." I felt the room spin, the chatter and clinking glasses fading to a dull roar. "But you promised," I said, tears burning my eyes. "All those years you said you'd handle it if I got into a good school." Mom sighed, like I was being dramatic. "Promises aren't contracts, Lindsay. There are loans, scholarships, work-study programs. Kids your age figure it out." Dad nodded, cold as stone. "You need to learn to stand on your own. We're done carrying you." "Carrying me?" I snapped, my shock turning to fire. "You pushed me to apply to these schools. You said I was your future tech star." Mom waved a hand, signaling the waiter for more wine. "Don't make a scene, Lindsay. You're acting entitled." "Plenty of kids pay their own way." "Entitled?" The word stung like a slap. "You're my parents," I said, my voice shaking. "You told me to focus on grades because you'd take care of the rest. And now you're what, buying a car to show off to your country club friends?" Dad's face darkened. "Watch your tone. We've given you 18 years of a good life. That's more than enough." Mom leaned in, her voice low but sharp. "And one more thing, Lindsay. This stays between us. You don't go blabbing to your friends or anyone else. Our image is on the line, and you'll respect that. I stared at them, my heart pounding. They weren't just taking my future, they wanted me to lie to protect their facade, to pretend everything was fine, while they drove around in a car that cost more than a year at UT Austin. The waiter brought our appetizers, oblivious to the bomb they'd just dropped. I couldn't touch the food, my stomach churning. So what am I supposed to do? I asked, my voice raw. Give up everything I've worked for? Dad shrugged, slicing into his steak. Pick a cheaper school, get a job, take out loans. Life's not a free ride. Mom sipped her wine, her eyes cold. Deal with it, Lindsay. We've done our part. Now it's our turn. The rest of the dinner was a blur. They talked about the car, leather seats, sunroof, how it'd turn heads at the next gala, while I sat there numb, my dreams crumbling. When Dad's credit card came back after covering our $300 meal, I couldn't help but think that single bill could have bought my textbooks. Back home, I locked myself in my room, collapsing onto my bed. My phone buzzed with a text from Brooke asking which college I'd picked. I couldn't reply. How could I tell her my parents chose a car over my future? How could I explain to UT Austin I wasn't coming because my college fund was parked in our driveway? I cried until my throat burned, waves of shock and betrayal crashing over me. But sometime past midnight, something shifted inside me. If my parents wanted me to deal with it, I would, not for them, but for me. They didn't believe in my dreams, but I still did. Somehow I'd find a way forward, even if it meant starting from nothing. The next morning, I woke with puffy eyes but a spark of resolve. If they wouldn't help, I'd find someone who would. I just didn't know how hard that fight would be. If my parents thought I'd crumble because they chose a Mercedes-Benz SUV over my college fund, they were dead wrong. I wasn't doing this for them anymore. I was doing it for me. I grabbed my phone and started calling financial aid offices. My voice shaky but determined. UT Austin. My dream school was first. The administrator was kind but blunt. Ms. Chapman, your parents' income is well above our need-based aid threshold, she said. Since they're your legal supporters, you don't qualify regardless of their refusal to pay. I called every school that accepted me. Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, smaller programs. The answers were the same. My family looked rich on paper, and the system didn't care that my college fund was now parked in our driveway. With elite schools out of reach, I turned to state universities. The University of Texas at Arlington offered a partial merit scholarship covering about half the in-state tuition. It wasn't UT Austin, but their computer science program was solid, and it was my only shot. 2 weeks after that gut punch dinner, I faced my parents in our too-perfect living room. I'm going to UTA, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. I'll live in the cheapest dorm, work part-time, and take loans for the rest. Mom looked relieved, like I'd solved their problem. That's practical, Lindsay. UTA is a fine school. Dad nodded, his face blank. Sounds like a plan. No apology, no guilt, just a quick shift to their next obsession, the car's delivery date. The interior's unreal, Mom gushed, scrolling through photos on her phone. I walked away, my stomach twisting. I landed a summer job at a mall coffee shop pouring lattes for $8 an hour. The day before their SUV arrived, I helped Mom unpack her new designer sunglasses, each pair worth more than my future textbooks. They barely noticed me, too busy posting the Mercedes on social media with captions like, "Living the dream." While I pulled double shifts, my phone buzzed with their updates, them posing by the car grinning at country club events, their debt-fueled facade still airtight. I stopped checking their posts after a week, the betrayal too raw. August came, and I moved into UTA's oldest dorm, a cramped room with peeling paint and creaky beds. My roommate Brooke was a mechanical engineering major from Fort Worth, also working her way through school. "This place is rough," she laughed, stacking her books on a shaky shelf. "Better than nothing," I said, my mind flashing to UT Austin's glossy dorms. Reality hit fast. I'd scored a job at the campus library 10 hours a week, and another waiting tables at a local diner weekends and 2 weeknights. Between classes, work, and studying, I averaged 4 hours of sleep. Meals were instant noodles or diner scraps, whatever I could grab. My parents' calls were scarce, always shallow. "How's school?" Mom would ask before raving about their latest gala or the car's new wax job. I kept it short, never mentioning my struggles. They didn't need to know I'd skip meals to save cash or cry in the library bathroom overwhelmed. Meanwhile, their social media sparkled with photos of them cruising Dallas, the Mercedes gleaming. The contrast burned my hustle versus their fake glamour. October brought midterms and my breaking point. After an all-nighter for a coding project, I dozed off during a calculus exam, waking with 15 minutes to finish 2 hours worth of problems. That night at the diner, I dropped a tray of sodas, earning a warning from my boss. Back in my dorm, exhausted and unraveling, I found a notice under the door. My student account was past due $2,000, or I couldn't register for spring classes. I sank to the floor, clutching the paper, and let the sobs tear through me. How could I keep going? I was failing schoolwork, everything. Maybe my parents were right. Maybe I wasn't built for this. Brooke found me there, curled against my bed. "Lindsay, what's wrong?" she asked, sitting beside me. I handed her the notice, choking out the story: my parents' betrayal, the car, the loans I couldn't get without a cosigner. She listened, her face softening. "That's messed up," she said. "Parents are supposed to have your back." I shook my head, tears falling. "I don't know how to do this. I'm drowning." Brooke gripped my shoulder. "One step at a time. Anyone else you can call? Grandparents, maybe?" Her words clicked. My grandma Edith had always been my biggest cheerleader. She'd sent me $1,000 check for graduation, which my parents had borrowed for their car payment, promising to repay it. They never did. I called her the next day from a campus bench, my voice trembling as I spilled everything. "Jeffrey did what she," snapped, her outrage like a lifeline. "That money was for your education. I raised him better." By the end of the call, she'd offered to co-sign a private student loan and send a small monthly stipend, enough to cut my diner shifts and breathe. "You're worth investing in, Lindsay," she said firmly. "Don't let anyone say otherwise." With my grandma's help and Brooke's support, I scraped through that first semester. My grades weren't perfect, but they held up. My coding professor, Dr. Stephen Grant, noticed my work on a group project and offered me a research assistant spot next term, a job that paid better than the library and gave real experience. My parents returned from a Houston trip, their Mercedes now sporting custom plates, and called to check in. I didn't mention Edith or my struggles, keeping our talks brief. "You sound tired," Mom said once over a dinner I wasn't invited to. "College is tough," I replied, leaving it there. Christmas break meant 3 weeks back home, sleeping in my old room, while my parents turned my study nook into a lifestyle corner for Mom's yoga gear. Photos of their Mercedes lined the walls where my coding awards once hung. "Self-reliance builds character," Dad said one night, pouring another whiskey. I bit my tongue, slipping to my room where I cried silently, just like that night after the Capitol grill. But these tears were different, not just pain, but defiance. I'd make it, not because of them, but despite them. And deep down, I knew this was just the start of my fight. Spring semester at UTA marked a turning point. With Grandma Edith's stipend and Brooke's pep talks, I found a rhythm classes research assistant work with Dr. Stephen Grant and fewer diner shifts. Sleep was still scarce, but I could breathe. My coding skills sharpened, and I started to see a path forward, not just survival. Dr. Grant, my professor, noticed my knack for algorithm design. "You've got a spark, Lindsay," he said after I debugged a complex project. "There's a regional coding competition coming up. You should join our team." I hesitated. My plate was full, but his belief in me was hard to ignore. I signed up, spending late nights practicing with teammates, fueled by coffee and defiance. If my parents thought I'd fail without them, I'd prove them wrong. The competition was intense with teams from UT Austin and Texas A&M schools I'd once dreamed of attending. To my shock, our UTA team took second place, beating several heavyweights. Dr. Grant beamed afterward. "Your algorithm optimizations carried us," he said. "I'd like to recommend you for a summer internship at CodeZap Technologies." My heart raced. CodeZap was a rising tech firm in Austin, competitive but well-paying with housing included. I threw myself into the application, building a portfolio of my best code, practicing interviews with Brooke until I could ace every question. When the offer came, I called my grandma first. "I got it," I shouted, my voice cracking. "Full-time, 12 weeks housing covered." She laughed, warm and proud. "I never doubted you, Lindsay." My parents' reaction was another story. I called to say I wouldn't be home for summer, hoping stupidly for a shred of pride. Mom sounded annoyed. "What am I supposed to tell people when they ask why you're not here?" she complained. Dad cut in, his voice sharp. "No need to make it sound like we're the bad guys. You're doing fine." I swallowed the hurt. "I got a prestigious internship," I said, my tone icy. "Maybe mention that." The call ended fast, their silence louder than words. They didn't care about my win. They cared about their image, still cruising Dallas in that Mercedes, posting "blessed" on social media while their debt piled up. As summer approached, my parents invited me to a charity gala they were co-hosting in Dallas, a glitzy event for their country club crowd. They even offered to cover my bus ticket, maybe feeling a twinge of guilt after our call. I wavered, but went, telling myself it was a chance to mend things. The gala was at a swanky hotel, all chandeliers and champagne. Mom had decked out the venue, and their Mercedes was parked out front, waxed to a mirror shine. We stuck to safe topics at first: weather, my cousin's new job, avoiding the elephant in the room. Then came the dinner, a long table packed with their high society friends. Dad stood to introduce me, his smile polished. "This is our daughter Lindsay, the coding whiz," he said, his voice dripping with fake pride. "She's at UTA, making us proud." One of his golf buddies leaned in. "UTA? I thought she was headed to UT Austin or some Ivy League." Before I could speak, Mom jumped in, her laugh too bright. "Lindsay wanted to stay local, didn't you, dear?" My blood boiled. They were rewriting history, painting themselves as supportive parents. I set my glass down, the clink cutting through the chatter. "Actually," I said, my voice steady but loud enough for the table to hear, "I'm at UTA because my parents chose a Mercedes-Benz SUV over my college fund. They told me to deal with it instead of paying for UT Austin." The room went dead silent. Dad's face turned to stone. Mom's smile froze like a mannequin's. Their friends shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting. "Lindsay's exaggerating," Dad said, forcing a chuckle. "We just encouraged her independence." I locked eyes with him. "Is that what you call it? Because I remember you saying, 'We've done our part, now it's our turn.'" Mom stood abruptly. "Lindsay helped me with dessert in the kitchen." She hissed, her voice low but furious. "In the kitchen," she spun on me. "How dare you humiliate us like that? Do you know what this does to our reputation?" I stared, incredulous. "Your reputation? You threw away my future for a car, and now you're mad." I told the truth. Dad stormed in, his face red. "You're being dramatic. We gave you 18 years of support. Most kids get nothing." My voice didn't waver. Most parents don't promise their kid college, then snatch it away for a status symbol. "You told me to keep quiet to protect your image. I'm done lying for you." Mom's eyes welled up, but her voice was ice. "If you can't respect what we've done for you, maybe you shouldn't be here." I nodded, calm washing over me. "You're right." I walked out through the stunned gala crowd to the lobby and called an Uber to the bus station. Before leaving, I turned to them one last time. "I'm going to make it despite you," I said quietly. "And someday, you'll regret choosing that car over me." The Uber ride was a blur, tears streaming as I processed what I'd done. But by the time I reached Arlington, a strange peace settled in. I'd cut the cord no more, pretending no more, protecting their lies. The next day, I emailed my parents. "I need space," I wrote. "I'll update you on big stuff, but don't contact me otherwise." Their replies came fast. Mom's defensive, dad's angry, but I archived them without responding. I blocked their numbers and unfollowed their social media, their Mercedes-filled posts too painful to see. Edith was the only family I kept close. "Sometimes you have to protect yourself," she said when I told her. "This isn't about punishing them, it's about saving you." Her words gave me strength. With my parents out of my daily life, I dove into the Code Zap internship, my studies, and new friends who valued me for me, not what I could do for their image. That summer at Code Zap was a game changer. My supervisors loved my work on a data processing algorithm, offering me a part-time remote role during junior year. It paid better than the diner, letting me drop those shifts and focus on school. Dr. Grant kept mentoring me, pushing me to submit my code to tech journals. "You're building a name for yourself," he said, grinning. Brooke, now more like a sister, celebrated with me over cheap tacos when I got my first real paycheck. "You're killing it," she said, tossing a chip at me. I laughed, but her words stuck. I was rising, not just surviving, and somewhere deep down I knew my parents would soon face the real cost of their choice. Junior year at UTA was when everything clicked. My part-time role at CodeZap Technologies, earned from that summer internship, gave me financial breathing room. I dropped the library job, slept more than 4 hours a night, and my grades shot up. Dr. Stephen Grant, my mentor, kept pushing me. "Your work's getting noticed, Lindsay," he said, forwarding my algorithm project to a tech journal. When it got published, Brooke insisted we celebrate with pizza in our dorm now, in a slightly better building than freshman year. "You're a rock star." She grinned, tossing a crust at me. I laughed, but I felt it. I wasn't just scraping by anymore. I was building something real. That fall, CodeZap offered me a full-time junior developer role after graduation, with a salary that made my jaw drop, plus a signing bonus to clear half my student loans. I accepted moving to Austin that June. My new manager, Valerie, welcomed me with a warm smile. "We're thrilled to have you," she said. "Your internship work was stellar." During orientation, I spotted a company program, the CodeZap Opportunity Fund, offering scholarships for students with big dreams but no financial backing. It hit close to home. I reached out to the fund's director, Colin, to learn more. "We're always looking for employee input," he said. "Got any ideas?" I did a scholarship for students like me, whose parents could afford college but chose not to. By my first year at CodeZap, I was thriving. My team praised my innovative fixes to our data platform, and my optimization algorithm caught the CTO's eye, earning me a shout-out in a company-wide meeting. I poured my evenings into the Opportunity Fund, reviewing applications that echoed my story: kids fighting for their education against parents who prioritized luxury. I pitched a new scholarship drive forward, funded partly by my signing bonus. It would cover full tuition for students whose parents opted for status symbols like fancy cars over their kids' futures. Colin loved it. "This is personal for you, isn't it?" he asked. I nodded, my throat tight. I know what it's like. The scholarship launched that spring, supporting 3 students. I crafted the essay prompt myself. How have you overcome family obstacles to pursue your education, and how will you help others do the same? Reading their stories, parents choosing boats, vacations, or yes cars over college, felt like reading my own. I added a mentorship component, pairing recipients with CodeZap employees for career guidance. Valerie jumped in as a mentor, saying, "You're changing lives, Lindsay." I didn't tell her it was healing mine too. My personal life steadied. I moved into a small Austin apartment, my first real home. I joined a coding meetup, made friends, and started dating Randy, a finance analyst who got my complicated family history without judgment. "You're stronger for it," he said one night, walking me home. Edith, still my rock, visited for my 22nd birthday, bringing homemade cookies and a $5,000 check. "Pay down those loans," she said, hugging me. "I'm so proud." My parents, Jeffrey and Pamela, stayed on the sidelines. I sent brief updates graduation my CodeZap job, but their replies were curt, never addressing the past. I kept my distance, their Mercedes-filled social media posts, a reminder of why. 2 years into my CodeZap job, I hit a milestone. My team's new recommendation algorithm boosted platform efficiency by 30%, landing me a promotion to team lead at 24. A tech magazine featured me in their Rising Stars list, citing my scholarship work. The article spread, and soon my parents emailed me, subject line, "We'd like to talk." They were coming to Austin for Dad's industry conference and wanted to meet. I hesitated, talking it over with Edith and Randy. "You're in control now," Edith said. "Hear them out, but set your terms." I agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near my office, my turf. They walked in looking older, Dad's hair grayer, Mom thinner. "Lindsay." Mom said, her voice catching, reaching for a hug. I stepped back, offering a handshake. "Good to see you," I said, neutral. We sat, the air heavy with unspoken words. They made small talk, weather their flight, before Mom broached my career. "We heard about your promotion," she said, tentative. "CodeZap sounds impressive." Dad nodded. "Big achievement for your age." I leaned back. "It took a lot of work," I said pointedly. "Work I did alone." They shifted uncomfortably. "We always knew you'd do well," Mom said, missing my tone. I cut in. "Want to see my office? It's a few blocks away." They nodded eagerly, maybe sensing a chance to reconnect. At CodeZap's sleek Austin headquarters, I signed them in, leading them to the open plan floor where my team worked. Colleagues waved and Valerie stopped by. "Lindsay's our star," she said, smiling. "Her algorithm's a game changer." My parents puffed up, basking in reflected glory. In my office, small but mine, with awards and team photos, they took it all in. "You've done so much," Mom said softly. Then Colin knocked. "Lindsay, the Drive Forward scholarship materials are ready," he said. My parents' heads snapped up. "Scholarship?" Dad asked. I took a breath, watching them closely. "Yes, I started the Drive Forward scholarship. It helps students whose parents have the means to pay for college but choose things like luxury cars instead, like you did." Mom's face paled. Dad froze. "You made a scholarship because of us?" he asked, his voice low. "I made it because I know how it feels to have your future traded for a status symbol," I said evenly. "Every year we help kids like me, and my colleagues know why I'm so passionate about it." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "People know about us," she whispered. "Not by name," I said. "But they know my story, how my parents told me to deal with it. Because a Mercedes mattered more than UT Austin." Dad sank into a chair, staring at the floor. "We didn't think it would hit you this hard," he muttered. "You didn't think about me at all," I countered, my voice steady. "You cared about your image, not the years I struggled or the trust you broke." Mom dabbed her eyes. "We just wanted to live a little. We didn't mean to hurt you." I shook my head. "It's not about the car. It's about never owning up to what you did." Dad stood, his face tight. "So you've been telling everyone we failed you?" I met his gaze. "I've been honest about my journey. That includes you choosing a car over my education." The silence was thick. Mom broke it, her voice small. "We love you, Lindsay. We made a mistake." I nodded. "That's a start, but it's not enough to fix 4 years of damage." I walked them to the elevator, their steps heavy. As the doors closed, Mom's face crumpled, Dad's arm around her. I returned to my office, closing the door, feeling a quiet release. I'd said what needed saying. Weeks passed without contact. I focused on work, the scholarship, and my life with Randy and friends. Then one Sunday, Dad called. "Lindsay," he said, his voice tired. "Can we talk?" For the first time, he owned up, no excuses. "We were selfish," he admitted. "We justified it as teaching you independence, but we wanted that car more than we wanted to keep our promise. We hurt you, and I'm sorry." His words hit deep, unexpected. "Thank you," I said, my voice soft. "That means something." He asked to meet again, no pressure. I agreed, choosing a cafe near my apartment. At the meeting, Mom handed me a letter, her hands shaking. I wrote it so I wouldn't mess it up, she said. It detailed their regret not just for the car, but for dismissing my pain, for hiding their debts, for letting pride ruin our bond. We told ourselves we were helping you grow, Dad added, but we were running from our own mess. I asked, why now? Mom's eyes met mine. Seeing your office, hearing about the scholarship, it showed us we weren't just a footnote in your story. We were the villains. Dad nodded. And then our friends started asking about it. Someone at the club heard about a scholarship for kids whose parents chose cars over college. It hit us hard. There was no instant forgiveness, no tearful hug. We agreed on small steps, weekly calls, occasional coffees when they visited Austin. They respected my boundaries, and I opened the door just a crack to something new. We don't expect you to forget, Mom said as we parted. We just want to try. Months later, they asked to fund the Drive Forward scholarship. I declined. It's mine, I said. It stands for something you don't get to claim. But I suggested they start a separate fund at UTA for community college transfers. They did quietly, a small step toward making amends. My career soared. The algorithm I led became CodeZap's backbone, earning me another promotion. The Drive Forward scholarship grew to 5 students a year, its mentorship model copied by other tech firms. Randy and I got serious, talking about a future together. Edith, now 74, came for Thanksgiving, marveling at my apartment. You turned pain into purpose, she said, squeezing my hand. On my 25th birthday, we gathered Randy, Brooke, Edith, a few colleagues, and for the first time, my parents. Edith toasted me, her voice strong, to Lindsay, who turned betrayal into a legacy. Dad stood, his eyes wet. We failed you, he said. But watching you rise, helping others, it's taught us more than we ever taught you. Later, Randy asked how I felt. It's messy, I admitted. Part of me's still that 18-year-old crushed by their choice. But I'm choosing to let it fuel me, not break me. A letter from a Drive Forward recipient sealed it, a girl whose parents picked a yacht over her tuition. Knowing someone else gets it, she wrote, gave me hope. That was my healing, not erasing the hurt, but turning it into something that lifted others. My parents' choice cost us years, but it forged a path I'd never trade. We're building something new, honest, fragile, real. Life doesn't always give you what you expect, but you can take the pain and make it mean something. What about you? Have you faced a betrayal that shaped your path? Share your story below, hit like, and subscribe for more.